Hello everyone, I'm Milo and welcome to my town. 2023 is coming to a close, and with it I thought I'd make yet another video ranking my top 10 best games that I played during this year. This year I actually became quite busy because I got some new objectives in my life, so a lot of time that I would have dedicated to gaming prior, I actually ended up having to do in different activities. But nevertheless, I still had some fun times playing some video games during this year. And as I said, I decided to once again make a ranking of the top 10 of the ones that I played. The games that are comprising this ranking are both some new releases or from older games, but pretty much the defining criteria is something that I played during this year for the first time. I have mostly omitted stuff like multiplayer games or stuff that I played for very little, and in the end the list narrows down to about 15 of them. I'll be presenting the top 10 here and maybe some notable mentions that didn't quite make the cut. With that said, let's begin. Number 10. Death Come True. I'll be honest, it's gonna be a little bit hard to talk about this game because I literally played it on the first week of the year, so it's been that long. But it did captivate me enough to make it my number 10 and to discuss about it here. Death Come True isn't really much of a game, but rather an FMV. I believe this means full motion video, but when we're talking about games on this genre, there are usually games that have a lot of video clips, and most of the times the gameplay itself comes to the player interacting in some way. These usually have branching endings, and depending on the choices that you make, you get your one. I think one of the most popular ones is called Night Shift. I have not played that one, but I am definitely looking forward to do it sometime. Anyway, coming back to Death Come True, the reason I even know about this game is because it is made by Kazutaka Kodaka, the creator of the Danganronpa series. As an avid fan of his work, I knew I had to check it out, and honestly, I didn't get disappointed. The game follows the story of a young man that seems to awaken in a hotel room with amnesia. Then he sees on the news that he's apparently being looked for by the authorities. And then stuff in the hotel starts happening that makes little to no sense, like things start glitching out, and a series of events happens where he needs to continue through the hotel and encounter different scenarios, some of which may lead to a death or something, so you then get to retry and choose another route to continue. The game isn't incredibly long. I believe it took me 3 hours to beat everything on it, and this included having to replay the entire thing completely because there is a branching ending that unfortunately doesn't allow you to save before it, so you have to make a choice and replay everything again. Though thankfully the second playthrough you can just breeze through it since you know how to proceed and what happens. But it was enjoyable in my opinion. As I said, it's an FMV, so it uses real actors. It's kind of like a movie and the production value is really good. I believe they use some big name actors on this. Like I think one of the characters is the main protagonist of Attack on Titan. Don't quote me on that because I don't watch that series. But it was really enjoyable for the performance, and it's a Kodaka story, so it has its hidden secrets in there. Of course, I'm not gonna spoil anything about the story because that's the whole point. But yeah, I enjoyed it enough. I don't remember what price it has, but you know, you can just pick it up on a sale, and I think it's a justified price for what you'll get. Number 9. Project Eden's Garden. More specifically, the prologue. Now you may be thinking, what am I looking at? Isn't this Danganronpa? And you would be partly correct. Project Eden's Garden is actually a fan game based on the Danganronpa games that tries to adapt and create their own setting. The team behind it has done a really good job in recreating almost the engine of Danganronpa B3, I would say. Even though they did it from scratch, it generally looks like someone modded the game and just put it there. They are aiming for, you know, something similar Danganronpa like a killing game and all of that, but they are completely separate from the Danganronpa universe. This is their own world and they are making something completely different yet similar to it conceptually. I played the prologue, which is the only part available for it right now. It is a fan project, and these things can take time when it's just a passion project from people, but it's really well done, really interesting, and promises a lot for the future. Just about a year ago they released this prologue and I played it in early January. I liked it a lot and I am awaiting for, you know, the future chapters. Now this entire thing is gonna take several years to complete, and while that can suck a little bit, I did want to mention it because I really enjoyed it. It was a friend who even brought it into my attention and I just fell in love with it when I saw it. Like, it looks really promising and I am looking forward to what they do in the future. Still waiting for chapter 1 to release, and I will likely not be mentioning this in the future considering how long it's gonna take. Maybe in a few years when it's full, who knows. But for now, this is my number 9 game, and one I definitely recommend you check out if you are a fan of Danganronpa. Number 8. Kirbys Return to Dreamland Deluxe. Okay, don't get me wrong here. I love Kirby, I think everyone knows that at this point. But why is it so low in the ranking? Well, the reasons are that this game is a remake from a game from 2011 for the Wii. Now, that in alone it's not bad, and I think it's great that they re-released this game so that more people can experience it if they couldn't actually get their hands on the original release, because nowadays it is hard. And the remake is really good quality, it adds some new stuff, it's also good. But I think probably due to it being a remake, some other stuff deserves to be more high on the ranking, that's why it's in number 8. Still, I did have a lot of fun playing this game, it's just as good as I remember it, though I had played it last year, so yeah. The new stuff is cool, the minigame addition is really cool, I have played it with friends and it is a fun, like, party game, you could even say. The minigames that you can do in there, they are pretty cool and engaging for a party. There's the new epilogue which adds to the story and all of that, and also personally for me I had a lot of fun playing it because I did it completely on stream here on the channel, so I had a lot of people interacting with as I played through the game and it was really fun, so yeah, that's why it deserves this spot. Again, it's not that much higher because it's not a new game or concept and I literally had just played it a year prior, so it's not like I had too much surprise in there, but nevertheless I did enjoy it and had a lot of fun with it. Number 7. WarioWare Movie. Now, it actually pains me to even put this game on this list for some reasons, let me explain. WarioWare Smooth Moves on the Wii was a really amazing game that I played back in the days. To be quite honest, I think I only played it on a single day that I went to a friend's house. I think he hadn't advanced too much on the story, and back then I didn't own a Wii, it was his friend that had it. And I think we played through the entirety of the game that day, and it was insanely fun, using like the Wii remote as the formaton and doing all the different poses and stuff. The micro games, they were really fun. Ever since then, I had kind of been clamoring for Smooth Moves 2, a successor to this game. And you know, well, it didn't happen on the Wii U exactly because we got Game & Wario. On the 3DS it was hard, but when we saw the control capabilities of the Switch, I said, hey, a Smooth Moves can happen here. And then it didn't for a while. We got Get It Together, which honestly I quite enjoyed. And then this year we finally got the trailer and I saw it and oh my god, it is actually Smooth Moves 2. And when you get to play it, you do feel it, it is truly Smooth Moves 2. The gameplay at the core is really cool, really fun, you know, moving around, doing the micro game actions. But I do have a problem with it, is that it lacks a lot of content. If you compare it to Get It Together had several side modes and it even had some missions that you could do like achievements, so they asked of you to do different types of tasks in micro games or getting a high score or something like that, and there was a lot to do for the game that it gave you on its own. But then when you get to Move It, you have the main story, which is, you know, the character stages. When you clear that, you get the usual like all mixed up, the one that's really hard, the one that's really fast, and then you unlock a single mode where you just shoot water guns. It's like a different type of game. It has its novelty, but it's just 3 stages long and then it ends, and if you wanna replay it, it's the same. And then that's it, at least for single player stuff. There is like 3 multiplayer games that you can do, but I haven't been able to because I don't have the people to try them out with. And it was kind of disappointing, honestly. Like, there isn't even an in-game thing that tells you, hey, try to aim for this score on this stage. And you know, when you did that in previous WarioWares, you would get a little indicator, and there is nothing in this game, so it lags in there, and that hurt my impression of it a little bit. I wanted to, like, never mind, unlock all the micro games and get to at least a high score that would be the standard for Get It Together, for instance, in this game, and I haven't done it. Granted, I have been busy, but a little bit of motivation was lost due to the fact that after you beat the game, which honestly takes 2 hours if you just continue to play, there aren't that many activities besides if you just want to replay, and that hurt my impression of it a little bit. I am thinking of maybe doing a full video on this game, but it will have to wait for a bit. At least for now, as I said, it pains me to put this game this high considering how much I was anticipating it and hoping it would happen. But unfortunately it looks like Nintendo went on the cheaper side of the content for it. That said, the gameplay is excellent, so if you only care about that, it is definitely a good game for that regard. Number 6. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Now, as we're starting to get to the middle of the list, I think the reason that this game is 6 and not higher is mainly due to the fact that it doesn't really have a story, and as you'll see later on, my next picks are story heavy games, so I do value that a lot in video games. So that's why it's just number 6. But regardless, Mario Wonder is an excellent game, the return to the 2D platforming for Mario, with a new style. I know that there was a new team in charge of this one, and it's very clear with all of the ideas that they put in. They broke from the status quo of the new games, new Super Mario Bros. Games, and made something wonderful and new. With the wonder effects, they can affect the levels greatly. There are new enemies. I don't remember if there's the mechanics, but new power-ups. Overall, the game was really a joy. There is some things that aren't as cool, like there's some small levels that last 5 seconds, and I said it while I was streaming that if they were just a bit longer or they executed more on the idea that they were going, would have been a bit better. But overall the game does have a big selection of levels anyways, so that it doesn't necessarily hinder them that much. So it is an excellent platformer. It is not that difficult until the special world. At that point you're gonna be crying a little bit sometimes. But it is a really good game and a great return to the Mario. I can only hope that they continue to expand on this idea, or even give us a Wonder Maker where they allow us to use wonder effects to affect our levels. I think that will just soar the creativity of people, but we'll have to see what they do with the Mario franchise for now. Number 5. Root Film. Now, this game I have discussed briefly in the channel before. As you may have known, I have a video of Root Letter Last Answer, which is a visual novel from Kadokawa Games. I made a full video on it. I even have an unboxing on it, and I actually bought the sequel to it, or at least spirited sequel, made by the same thing, or developers at least, which is called Root Film. This game was supposed to take inspiration from its predecessor, and I can say with certainty that they took what was good in Root Letter and they applied it. So we have a visual novel that instead of letters like Root Letter, this one is focused on film. It follows the story of a movie producer, and there's another side protagonist which actually is an actress starring in a movie. And it's a visual mystery novel, so without spoiling too much, they'll eventually find themselves involved in different incidents, and using some deductive skills they will try to help out to solve the case. The game is surprisingly deep in the story, like it takes certain avenues that you may not necessarily be expecting at first glance, and it really impressed me, because I believe it started a little bit weak because you are on the unknown, but then when you continue and you get told, oh, the stuff that we were hinting at before makes part of something much bigger, and that really resonated with me. I am most definitely making a full video on this game sometime in the future, but for now I can say that I really enjoyed it. My impression of it only improved as I played it, so that's it. That's gonna be my number 5. Number 4. Master Detective Archives Raincoat. Well, to no surprise, we have another visual novel type of game. I mean, it is something that I really enjoy, so it is to be expected. I have already made a full video on this game, so I don't think I'm gonna have to say too much in here. If you want my full opinions, you can go to that one. But just to summarize, this is the latest project and the spiritual successor to the Danganronpa franchise, and it's behind the development team that did those games. It takes on this new setting of a world where we have these detectives that have special skills and help solve cases around, but our setting takes place in a city that has been secluded for the world for some years, and some really weird happenings are going on in there, something unknown that they don't want getting out. And it's up for our protagonist Yuma, who is actually an amnesiac trainee detective, to try and figure out the mysteries behind it. It is really good for a game, great for the Danganronpa fans to enjoy. Since I've made a full video on this, I don't think I need to explain myself too much, but it was a really pleasant experience for this game. Before we move into the top 3, I want to make some honorable mentions, some of the games that didn't quite make it into the list. The first one is Suihoshin. This is a visual novel that takes place on the old land of Joseon, which is current-day Korea. You follow the story of a young man who was training to become a guard and comes back to his native town when weird happenings start to occur. It has a flowchart system with branching paths. However, it is not incredibly deep, and the game itself it's only about 10 hours long. I believe this is the first game from an independent developer studio, and for what it is, I enjoyed it. Like, it's not incredible, but I thought it was cool enough, and it has some decent mechanics for the way that the story works. They aren't super deep, but I did enjoy it, and I believe it's not even that pricey, so maybe just take a look at it if you care. It's like mystery detective, and there's a little bit of supernatural stuff going on. The next one is 12 Minutes. Now, this game has quite some years now, and I do believe it was heavily acclaimed when it released. But this is kind of like a point-and-click adventure, heavily narrative game, where in a nutshell you are a guy that's coming back to his house after work. And there's about 12 minutes of time of events that happen when he arrives to his house and talks to his wife, which after they're over, they start looping. Then even if he tries to leave the apartment or if he's somehow injured, it will loop back to the beginning. There is a lot of stuff to unpack in the story that this game has, and you will continue to pursue new avenues in new loops when you know more stuff, try to talk with people in a different way or interact with items or search for clues around the house until you get to the nitty and gritty of the story. It is quite interesting, and I also don't want to spoil too much about it, but it is quite an interesting story. I believe it took me about 6 hours to fully beat the game, and I did have to replay it due to some achievements that I missed, but it's not terribly long, so it's a good thing to like beat in 1 or 2 days, something like that. It is enjoyable enough, so I would recommend it. With that said, let's move on to my top 3 games of this year. Number 3. Gnosia. This is a very interesting game that had caught my attention for many years, and I always had it on the back of my mind. I believe I bought it on Steam this year after a lot of dilly-dallying, because it didn't seem to go on sale in every sale that Steam often does, rather only in some of them. So I bought it with the intention of playing it soonish, and well, that time did eventually come on this year. I knew nothing about it, besides the fact that it was kind of a visual novel of finding like hidden suspects. I wanna say Among Us-like, but not really. In reality, the pleasant surprise that I found when I finally got to it is that this game is a single-player version of the communication game of Werewolf. For those unaware, this is a type of game where one person in between a group or many are given a bad role, an evil role, while the rest of the players are either normal people or people that have some roles that can help out get information into finding out the perpetrators. This is usually played with like 6 or more people in real life, or there's virtual versions even. So it can be hard if you're a fan of this type of thing to play it if you don't have enough people to do so with. What Gnosia did is that they completely turned it into a single player experience, and I can say that they did an amazing job at it. The game does have some story. Pretty much you are looping in between these cycles of playing werewolf, or in this case there is several infected people with some type of virus in a spaceship, and they need to like neutralize them before it's too late and they overcome all the crew in the ship. As I said, there's different roles that can help them out, as well as some other evil ones that can either aid the Gnosia side or they can work on their own. And the story revolves around getting random events as you play through these loops of the game that explain to you stuff about the characters and about the situation that you find yourself in. It was really interesting to me because I love werewolves, so when I found out as I was playing it for the first time that this is what this game was about, I just instantly fell in love with it. And the story itself, it's quite crazy, the revelations that you keep finding as you play through it, so it really resonated with me, so that's why it has this high of a ranking. I definitely recommend it. It is really cool. Because you get to play it, you may lose at the beginning, but then you have to start to learn how to play against the other characters in the game and all of that. I have also considered making a full video on this game, so I may do so in the future. But for now I think I've talked extensively about it and why I heavily recommend it. Number 2. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. If you saw my last year's video, then you probably saw this coming from a while ago. But yes, my second best game of the year is the DLC expansion for Xenoblade 3, and specifically the story expansion for it, Future Redeemed. I don't want to spoil Xenoblade, even though it's been a good amount of time since it released, so pretty much this game is a prequel to the actual story of Xenoblade 3, and it brings back everything from the previous games that we thought that had happened. It is the story of the founders of the city in the game, and you get to see the faces of the protagonists of Xenoblade 1 and 2 come together in the world of Xenoblade 3, as well as some other characters that are related to them. And the story tells something that, we are told via flashbacks and hearsay here and then in the main game, but it's still pretty emotional to see it unveil as you play. And then at the end there is a little bit of a hint that is not just goes for this prequel, but also goes for like the future of the franchise, and it concludes the ending of the main game. For the people that have played this series since the beginning, at least the Xenoblade Chronicles series, it's definitely a must play and a roller coaster of emotions and nostalgia and all of that, and just being baked. But if you follow the Monolith Software's games throughout the years, then you're also in for a treat for what you will find in here. The gameplay of it is a slightly modified version of Xenoblade 3, the base game, with a little bit some restrictions because they don't have the same abilities, but it works well enough. It takes place in an area that you don't actually explore in the base game, so that's that. And as I said, the story is just a blitz and a great conclusion to the franchise as a whole. Even though it's a prequel to the base game, it helps establish stuff that really concludes the saga that began in 2011 with the original Xenoblade Chronicles. And I, as a fan, could not be more exalted by having experienced it. And the moment of truth. My number 1 game of the year was The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I guess this wasn't too hard to predict anyways, considering how big this game is. I was even debating whether or not I would make Xenoblade's DLC my top game of the year, but I do believe that when I was actually playing Tears of the Kingdom, I was having fun and messing around with the mechanics that at one point I really did say, wow, this is really gonna be my GOTY. after having played Xenoblade. I know that Xenoblade is really heavy on the story and all of that, while Zelda isn't a whole lot. But you know, this game, and I'm not even gonna mention too much of it because I think everyone knows. You know, the whole gameplay aspect, how you can fuse different things together and get different effects, and they went really detailed into this. How you can move around the different construction pieces, both the Sonic devices or just anything that you find in the wild, and make your crazy weird contraptions, trying to like get the puzzles. I would say cheese, but sometimes they're expected of you to do them like that. But sometimes you can find like a crazy way. Like something that I did a lot was ultra handing something, moving it around, then bringing it back to my feet and using rewind on it so I could ride on it and get to different places. I think they didn't necessarily want you doing that in a lot of stuff, but I did, and that's the whole thing with this type of game, that your creativity is rewarded, and this game just really expanded on that. I know that in its space is relatively similar to Breath of the Wild, but I think for like the gameplay change that it did and the options that it offers, that was really good, and I really enjoyed it. As I said, I think that got cemented as my #1 game of the year when I was playing it. And yeah, it was really enjoyable. My only gripe with it's because they already said that the game was complete. They never released DLC or any major updates besides fixing bugs. Something that I would have liked is if they included some sort of player creation sharing, so that if you made some weird device or contraption, you could like save it and then upload it online and other people could download it. Like, what if we had a Zelda 3D maker, where you know people could create in-game whatever they could. I know you may have seen videos around. There's people that make like automatic egg farms or something like that, and that is so cool. But it's limited to, you know, the single player aspect, and you can't even, if you see something, you may have a hard time actually recreating it on your own game. So it would have been cool if there was something that allowed you to share them, but it didn't happen. But well, who knows. But I believe that was my #1 game of the year. And don't worry, unlike last year, I don't have any fake outs this time. This is the truth, and that was my real top 10 for games of this year. As I said, there were 15 games, and you can see on screen the ones that I didn't actually mention on this list. Like, we have something like Kirby Tilted Tumble, which, you know, I played on stream. It was a fun little distraction for 2 days, but that's it. There's Katawa Shoujo, which is an eroge visual novel that a friend recommended to me. Do not play this if you're under 18, okay? And the other one is Milk Inside a Bag of Milk. So this is a really short visual novel, but it's okay. It's nothing crazy, but I enjoyed it. And those are pretty much the games that I played this year. I played some other stuff that I had started previously, like I completed Yakuza 3, but I didn't count that. And oh, I guess I should mention, I didn't mention anything about the Pokemon DLC here, because I have not had the chance to play the second version of it. And also they are making an epilogue, it seems, releasing in January. So I don't have a way to fully talk about that game just yet. I am thinking of making like a final verdict of it, and you know, posting it sometime next year as well. But for now, that was my top 10 of games. So let me know in the comments, what did you think? Did you like the ones that I discussed? Did you find something that maybe you didn't know that you may want to try out? Or what were your games? I know I didn't play a lot of other really popular games that people may have played, but that's just what I used and what I played. So I hope you enjoyed. Definitely look forward to more videos next year. I'll be trying to keep some. I have some ideas. So yeah, I think that's gonna be it. So don't forget, you'll always be welcome in my town. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.